Good evening, everyone. I'm hoping that you can hear me. Just a quick test of audio. If you are able to hear, would you please enter into the group chat or the chat box and just identify that you are able to hear me. And if you can, please make sure you can give me a thumbs up or a smiley face or thank you, Leslie. I can hear. That's perfect. Thank you so much. So again, just testing audio, making sure you can hear, and if you can, make sure that you just, if you're participating, obviously, in which you're logged in, then thumbs up, smiley face, anything like that is helpful. Thanks. And in about a minute or two, we'll start and we'll begin and jump right in. So thanks again for everyone for joining this evening. I greatly appreciate it. And we'll chat soon. Okay, everybody. Again, good evening. Appreciate the time that you're here and taking away. It is certainly a pleasure to connect with all of you. As we did last time, the meeting will be recorded. I'll send that out again to all. Of course, at any point in time in tonight's review and discussion and sharing, don't hesitate to ask questions, either chat them in or just, pipe on in with voice and audio. That is absolutely appropriate. And so what I'd like to do is just set our stage for this evening. First, start with our time frame. As promised, these virtual meetings will not go long. I try not to keep the virtual meetings going too long because obviously you're sitting there and watching a screen and hearing a voice, and it can be a little bit monotonous and a little mundane. So we try to keep them within that 45-minute, no longer than that time frame. So that's our goal for time. And in terms of content, and in terms of materials this evening, definitely going to go over three main things, possibly four if we get to those. It depends on time frame. The first, of course, is a conversation about two main documents within the web page that I had shared previously, a review of those, a bit of a discussion, and your connection, so to speak, to those particular documents. The second will be a conversation about your data collection in terms of task stream. And so a brief overview of that. I don't need to go too deep into that, but I definitely want to show you where some stuff is and what's required and how it's going to operate for all of you. The third then will be a sharing of the contract. And I'd like to share that with you and review it and then send it out to all of you so that you can review it. And then an update on our July meetings that we have scheduled and the conversation as to what to prepare for that and so forth. So again, glad that you're all here, and let's jump right on in. So I'm hoping that you had an opportunity to take a look at our year-long residency collaborative partnership page. I did send that out to you. If you have not, that's okay. Don't fret. Each section provides a variety of information. However, one of the areas that we definitely like to go over and provide information about is the program overview. Not so much the highlights and those types of things, because that stuff you're already aware of, but more so the two primary documents that are within the file attachments of the web page, and that's the gradual release of responsibility and our higher priority program standards that are aligned to the year-long residency. So I'd like to review these particular two documents. You may have taken some time to look at them. That's great. But I do want to provide an opportunity for everyone to review that and get a feel for what it is, taking a look at it and possibly asking any clarifying questions that are connected to the documents themselves. So I'll start with the high priority program standards. And it's probably a little hard to see on your screen if you've logged in, of course, because it is so much. But the best way to take a look at this and to converse about this particular document is how things are connected. And when I say things, I'm talking about how you are going to be conducting your experience and how it relates to the respective either standards or outcomes or knowledge that is connected to the year-long residency program. The way that I tend to discuss this is as if these are the particular standards or areas of focus in which drives the our particular program for residency. And also, if you look at it in terms of the three fields to the right, high priority resident knowledge, performance skills, and resident dispositions, these are the areas in which you, the learner, and also the resident, and also the teacher, will either experience, acquire, or discuss during the residency timeframe. So the two fields on the left, which are the program standards or national outcomes, and the state program standards, give you a framework of reference as to how this particular program and option is aligned to the state and national standards in which our program operates. Now, you at this point in time should have heard about or should have engaged in conversation about Charlotte Danielson's framework for teaching. And so when you see, and I'm highlighting it right now, when you see this particular area, Danielson's Domain 1 and Delaware Performance Appraisal System, which is the system that we use in practicum in terms of your observation evaluation of your lessons, it's based on Danielson's teaching framework, the four domains, one being planning and preparation, domain 2 being classroom management or classroom environment, domain 3 being instruction, and then domain 4 being professional dispositions or professionalism. Now, in the state of Delaware, there is a fifth domain that is connected to DPAS, and that's student achievement. Okay, and that's component number 5. Now, that is something that you are going to be deeply or intimately aware as you go through the residency, because when you're starting off the year, you and your mentor teacher will be, of course, going through all of these components. And 1 through 4 are familiar to you, or should at least you should have an understanding of. The 5th component is foreign to most because it is not something that is readily discussed or even engaged in unless one is truly participating in a program where you are interacting and engaging in setting goals for student achievement within a classroom setting. Now, of course, that's the lucky part for all of you. That's what this program offers as well, is an intimate and detailed dive into assessment for student learning, but within component of in student achievement, where you will begin at the very beginning of the school year. I should say you will start at the beginning of the school year, engaging in conversation with your mentor teacher about how component 5 is integrated into this entire process, and 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 whether we like it or not, we being the profession in the state of Delaware, component 5 is as equally important as component 1 through 4 in the evaluation of teachers, because component 5 as an assessment measure, as assessment component, is tied to performance, teacher evaluation. So you may be asking what InTask is, or what InTask is in terms of these standards. These are the national standards in which educator preparation programs, or what we call EPPs, or teacher prep programs, are aligned to. So there are national standards, state standards, and then of course, as I've broken this into, say, 2 sections, the 3 fields on the right being what you're going to experience and engage in, and the 2 on the left in which everything is aligned to. So as you go through this document, which I'm hoping either you have or after this evening you will see that the standards at the national level are aligned to the state outcomes for us as a teacher preparation program, and then what we have done is align the respective areas of knowledge, skill, and dispositions to the appropriate standard and state outcome, so that you are able to see the alignment, the big picture, so to speak. Now, you don't need me to go through each one of these. I'm assuming you don't need me to sit here and read this to you. But what I think is important, though, is that you do get to see how this is connecting the pieces and parts to the experience that you will have. A good example, I suppose, is, let's scroll down to something that's, I think, relatively concrete. Okay, and if we look at here, learning environment standard 3, as it aligns to Danielson's second domain, which is classroom environment or management. Now, you will look to see how here under, sorry, excuse me, the resident knowledge and then resident skills, you will understand or know that you're going to be designing learning experiences using various strategies that build learner self-direction. And then what you're going to do is you're going to develop and implement collaborative and self-directed learning experiences that connect and interact with the students that you're serving. So the way to read this in your eyes is saying, okay, I know that in the state of Delaware, here, I'm going to be evaluated for classroom environment. And it's aligned to this national standard called learning environments. And what I should know and do are very clearly and explicitly detailed for me. So this particular document is our guide in the larger construct and the kind of global view of how not only the year-long residency is aligned to standards, but also, more importantly, how you should begin to see yourself as the learner and also the teacher. Now, another aspect of this document is, again, it's connected to the evaluation of teachers. And so as you go through and you see how this is connected to the DPAS system. And then later on, as the experience begins and you begin to teach lessons and you are formally observed and evaluated, you will begin to see the connection between what you know, what you understand, the skills that you must possess, and the dispositions that you have to have as it's aligned to the observation and evaluation of your performance out in the field. So quickly, that's a quick down and dirty, quote unquote, kind of review of this particular document. Again, if you haven't taken the time to take a look at it, I'd appreciate it if you could do that. Now, this is something, again, that's global in nature. It's not something that we revisit often, but it's certainly something that we share out to all stakeholders. And what that means then for you is, yes, your mentor teachers are aware of this particular document. The school principal administrator is aware of this particular document. And more important, the district partners, the high level of administration, right? The HR directors, the curriculum directors, they're aware that our program is aligned in this fashion, which that connects to the quality component of everything, if you will. It's quality measures. So again, are there, and again, there may not be a lot of questions about this particular document because it is, I think, pretty self-explanatory, but deconstructing it is a good way to help you take a look at it for your purposes. So does anybody have any questions about this particular document? And quite frankly, not that many people do. So it's okay if you don't, and that's all right. Lynette, it's a great question. If I can hold off that response to once I get into task stream, I would be happy to respond to that one. Thanks, Lynette. Appreciate it. All right, let me close this out and open up your gradual release of responsibility. And this is the document that sometimes I think is the eye-opening document, so to speak. It's the one that definitely I think is clear, explicit, and detailed, and does share with you what you should be prepping for and beginning to do as we move from this date into August and so forth. So this is what we call our gradual release document. If you want to call it something else, such as what's my role and what's my responsibility document, you could call it that. Okay, you could call it, oh, I've got to do this document. Okay, so and it's basically boiling down to its most simplest of explanation. This document tells you what you should be doing month to month to month. Okay, so let's review this. Now, again, I'm not going to read every single item. That's a waste of your time. You are intelligent people. You're going to do that on your own. But it's definitely my responsibility to send the to share these documents with you. Ashley, be happy to do so. I'm going to send you the link, Ashley, to this webpage, which hosts and holds all of the documents that I'm sharing this evening and others that I'm not. So, but yes, Ashley, we'll do so. All right. So right now, and from June to August, the idea here is that we've reviewed task streams. That's what we're going to do tonight, so that you see where all the stuff is going to live, quote unquote stuff. Okay, that you've registered for courses. Yes, we know that, and everyone is either in the process or almost done with that. We're going to review the contract this evening. So that's important, if you will, particular items that are connected to this particular process. We will be talking about the W-9 form, which is essentially, if you will, the tax form, but we're not going to complete that until we really do know money is coming in. There's no need for you to fill out that particular document until we know stipends are available and ready to go. But we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But you'll see, of course, at the very top here, the mentor role and the candidate responsibilities, or your role. And so it is truly where we live and breathe in. As your mentor teacher will rely on this particular document, you will rely, and your supervisor will connect you with all this particular document and the information that's living there. So a good example, and I'll highlight it right here. I'm copying too much, or I should say highlighting too much right here, is this particular item, 2 bullets. Check task stream that no overdue assignments or missing competencies from previous years, and you want to contact the appropriate university faculty for assistance. That would be myself, of course, will help you there. Review practicum 3 and methods course requirements in task stream, which we're going to do this evening, and we'll get you moving in that right direction. But these are the things that we want to make sure that you are doing, right? That you've already connected with the district, your mentor teacher, right? And you've gotten the ID from the district. You're going to need that. It's part of your process of being a resident. That's right up here as an example. So again, I'm not going to read each and every one of these, right? However, this is the guide, so to speak, that will prepare you for the next few months. And as we go into the document, you'll see that there's a lot of information here. And if we're not looking at it in advance or in a timely manner, it can begin to get a little overwhelming because there are a lot of moving pieces and parts. Things aren't just so specific. It's not like do this, do that. It's make sure you're reviewing X, Y, and Z in preparation for moving along. For example, your exit performance assessment. I can't highlight anything tonight. Sorry, folks. Your exit performance assessment. At this particular time, with your supervisor, as they connect with you and move forward, you will be responsible for preparing and the collection of the data for your task 1. Please make sure that you are reviewing the ETS PPAT webpage and that you have all the documents necessary in front of you at some point in time over the next month, June into July, because by August and September, you're going to be so focused on the start of school that this PPAT thing, which you're technically not going to be in registering and taking until January, it's not going to be in the furthest of your mind. Now things are calm, they're cool, they're a little bit relaxed. Now's the time to begin to think about what you have to do for PPAT. Now, of course, this is not the first time you're going to hear this. Your supervisor will be communicating to you often about it, and they'll be, hammering home the importance of these particular items. But I think what I'm trying to tell you is month by month by month, begin to review and to decipher what it is that you must be planning for as it ranges from important particular items or submissions or things of need to what your responsibility is as a candidate in the residency program. Now, as I mentioned in our previous conversations and in prior meetings, as a resident of as a student or a candidate in the year-long residency program, you are responsible for all coursework, whether you've completed it prior or not. Meaning, if you've already done all your methods courses, as you recall, it indicate you don't retake the course again. It's not necessary to retake the course, but you will be teaching and preparing for 4 methods units, 1 in ELA, 1 in science, social studies, and so forth. And that's, of course, at the elementary level. And if you're at the secondary level, you're teaching your multiple units in your particular content area. And if you've already completed, let's say, practicum 3 by chance, you're still going to be teaching multiple lessons, which you have to be observed and evaluated regardless of that completion of that coursework. It's not like we don't do that. It's just you don't have to take the course again. But it is part of the program. It's part of the responsibility for that quality component, if you will, just flicking back here to what we called high priority program standards. So again, as you go through, it's month to month to month, and you'll see that by September, there are some specific things that you need to be gathering and be preparing for. For example, you're going to be collecting your video recording permission forms from ETS so that you can begin to record lessons, and you will be recording more than you've ever done before, because you will be using them often. You will be jumping into the multicultural survey. I'll show you that in Task Stream in a little while. You'll be updating your professional responsibilities growth form or your PRF and so forth. So again, I don't want to sit here and read this to you, but I do want to highlight some of these specific areas that connect to what your mentor teacher will be doing and what you will be doing through. For example, and I've stopped on this page not only because there are important things, but in September, you'll see here that your mentor teacher will be beginning to review with you CUME folders, IEPs, interest inventories. They'll begin to discuss some, like I said, the student growth data and goals of each particular individual student in the classroom. Those are things that are their responsibility. And all of your mentor teachers who and they've all gone through this before, know their role for you. The part of the reason why this document is so important, because it forces everyone to begin to have the conversations necessary and to plan for those particular conversations that are required during the month-to-month progress or progression, sorry. So you will be planning, and part of this is our conversation about what will occur in July during our live meetings, but is the planning and preparation of meeting with your mentor teachers during the school day to engage in conversations that revolve around these particular items that are listed on their side as well. Because even though our conversation tonight seems maybe one-sided, it's truly not. Your mentor teacher is your facilitator, your guide through the experience. And their particular responsibilities and their particular role is very important here, because each of these areas must be completed and or addressed as you walk through month to month the experience. So again, I'm going to keep this brief and short. Again, it's a review of a document, making sure you know where it is, that you know how to access these things, that you begin to complete, submit, prepare for. So as you can see, it goes into October, obviously, and then right into November and so forth. So again, I'll pause here because again, this document you can read again in detail in your own time, but do you have any particular questions about how this particular document works, its intent, purpose, and or any other questions revolving around the particular items? Morgan, great question. Sorry. For you as a particular in Sussex County at the Indian River, you can connect with your mentor teacher and also as well Mrs. Haup. Mrs. Haup will assist you in obtaining your district ID through Miss Lori Hudson, to whom you know, I'm sure. So Lynette, that's a great question. No, the WillMU ID is not just good enough. Your WillMU ID is your own, okay? But then you'll need to get a district one as well. And Lauren, that is correct. Not all the districts are same. Each district has their own kind of process for getting IDs out to everyone. My message to you is make sure that by August, September, you have a district ID or a school ID. You're just going to need to get one. Of course, your supervisor can assist you with that. And if you are in need, of course, I can assist you with that as well. But most of the time, your mentor teacher is right on top of that, and they're already connecting and knowing how to get that for you. Now, that also kind of relates to some other things that you will be given access to, such as some districts will give you your own email, and they will also give you access to PDMS system, which allows you to register for professional development and that are connected to the district. Some, not all, of the districts will also give you access to, I believe it's called INAS or IPEDS, which is your attendance tracking system. And I probably called that incorrectly. I can't remember all the acronyms all the time. Sorry, but the point here being is, at a minimum, you will receive various levels of access and information and ability to connect into the district systems. So Morgan, great question. Thank you. Are there any others that pertain to your gradual release and those responsibilities and roles that are demonstrated here in the document? And if not, that's fine. So technically you are registering for coursework, but and that's in the eyes, Lynette, of the university. In the eyes of the district, you are a resident and you are participating as the co-teacher in the classroom. The reason why we have to maintain that structure at the university side for practicum methods, assessment, and student teaching is because those particular courses must be on the transcript. So as you complete all of this and you go through what's called degree conferral, and you go through the process of degree petition, and the transcript is sent to the Delaware Department of Education for review, those particular classes must be labeled on that transcript as such. Unfortunately, it's a credit-bearing system that unfortunately it is what it is. This is all connected to regulation in the state of Delaware for initial licensure and certification. Okay, so it's a great question, Lauren and Ashley. To go over this briefly again, one of the things that we did talk about is that if you have not passed one of the sections of Praxis 2, that we would still obviously be accommodating and provide you that time between now and September, right, to take and pass the section itself. Especially if that section is the social studies section, because we know that is the most difficult section of the Praxis 2 to pass. The issue being here is that most candidates, as I discussed before, don't realize that there is a new examination called 7801 or 7800 series, and the social studies examination, or what's called the content knowledge test, will be changing this fall. So if it's the social studies exam and it's the one that you haven't passed, we should go offline at some point in time and have a conversation about how accommodating that we can be. Because of course, I have to look at this right globally, that everyone is passing their examinations, all sections, and they're moving forward. And I want to be accommodating, right? I want to be student friendly, as I think Wilmington University is, but we also have to set a time frame for completion and a deadline for passage. So what we should do is, Lauren and Ashley, I'll reach out to you, have a timeline in which we can talk offline to have a conversation about what that is and what that means to you, especially revolving around the social studies, because we know that right at the moment, that's the one that's the hardest one to pass. And we do get that, and we do understand. So Lynette, you do ask a very good question. No, in the residency, You cannot be pulled away from the residency experience to sub all year. That is not the intent and purpose of the residency program. Okay? So what I mean by that is you can most certainly substitute for your mentor teacher, and you may certainly substitute for someone on the grade level team. However, it does not mean that the principal can just come and pull you whenever he or she wants to and have you placed in at any point in time. That would be inappropriate. And it would also mean that you would not be getting what you're supposed to be getting out of this experience. Now, with that all being said, have I had students who have by January, December, at the school in which the residency is at, have a teacher who is going out on maternity leave? And then the principal does, and the district comes to me and said, so-and-so could be a great match. They understand the school, and then they would be a long-term substitute for the rest of the school year. We have done that. Yes, we have done that because A, you're at the same school site. B, you're still being mentored by the mentor teacher, which you started with, and you understand the children and the dynamics in that particular building. It would not work at the district level where you would go away from the school and be placed somewhere else. That would not work, and we would not approve of that. But we've had an happenstance where at a site where another teacher in the school went off for maternity leave, they needed a long-term substitute, and yes, we let that residency candidate stay there as a long-term sub for the rest of the school year, for the reasons why I've indicated. But we don't want you to, we don't want you to be picked willy-nilly and then be the school sub. That does not make any sense. It doesn't give you the experience that you need, if that makes any sense as well. So in terms of being a substitute teacher at your district, for your school, for your teacher, don't worry about that right now. Your mentor teacher has done this before. They know the point of contact at the school and the school district. Typically, it's the HR director, and they will guide you through the process of registering to be a substitute when the time is needed. So even though that's something you should do, don't worry about it right now. That's something to do in August, late August and September as the school year begins. Great question so far. So what I'd like to do is then switch gears, and I'd like to log into TaskStream so I can review that with you. Again, this is something that you can do as well on your own time as I provide an overview. Of course, going in a little bit deeper, that's your responsibility as a candidate. I'm going to give you that 30,000-foot view, so to speak. And I'll make the page a little bit bigger here because I'm sure that's difficult to see. Okay, so I'm going to use for our conversation this evening the K-6 undergraduate program. Please know that they're relatively all the same. There's only one or two minor differences between the secondary ed program and our special education program. But for our purposes, since it is a kind of high overview of TaskStream as it relates to your experience, I'm just going to use the undergraduate K-6 program because it's relatively all the same. Now, what you're looking at is your view, that what you see, obviously, in TaskStream. So let's start with the dispositions area. Now, you have all completed dispositions pre-survey. You should have reflection 1 and 2, or at least you're in the process of. You've completed Proethica. Now, during your residency year, you will complete 2 items. You will complete the post-survey, which typically happens in November with your supervisor's acknowledgement. They'll send you a note, or they'll remind you as they meet saying, it's November, we need you to submit your post-survey. And then during the months typically of February, March, maybe even April, depending, but typically February, March, your mentor teacher, your assigned mentor teacher, and your supervisor will conduct the final clinical observation as it revolves around the dispositions or teacher dispositions. Um, these things are not rocket science, but if you've not looked at the evaluation method of any of these things before, you should do that. Again, I'll show you where it's at, and I'll lead you to it. So, i.e., right, the horse to water, it's your responsibility to take a big, deep drink here. So in terms of the clinical observation, the rubric that is used to evaluate you is located here under evaluation method. If you click on it, it opens up, and you will see that these particular categories, learner development, learning differences, aligned to respective standards, will be that's what is used to evaluate you regarding your dispositions as you begin in August and progress through the residency. The post-survey is done by you, so it's a you start it and finish it. It's not anything that your mentor teacher and or your supervisor have to participate in. So that would be your dispositions. Now, of course, as you're logging in and you're looking at this stuff, if you don't see the Proethica done, as an example, red flag, send me an email, we'll take care of it. We'll work with you and get that done. And that goes with anything else as well. As I go through, if you see something that's not been scored or evaluated, please let me know so that we can get on top of that. In Practicum 3, okay, as most of you have seen, it is very similar to 1 and 2. There are 2 observations that are formal in nature. So that means you follow the WilmU lesson plan protocol that you learned in Practicum 1 and 2. All right, so, and that protocol being, you design, plan, prepare, a set number of days, you send that to your supervisor and mentor teacher. They officially review it, feedback through the pre and post observation form. I'm sure this is all clicking in everyone's mind. Now, same rubric is used as was in Practicum 1 and 2. You will see, of course, as you probably saw in Practicum 1 and 2, an improvement plan. We only use improvement plan for an observation number 3 if needed. And that would be one if by chance one of the 2 lessons was not scored above a 3. So anything below a 3 would initiate an action plan. Please don't think of that as negative. It is a learning experience and a learning environment, but it's not something you have to physically engage in unless directed. Now, what you will see different from 1 and 2 would be then there's your dispositions post-survey, as I identified in the dispositions area of your task stream. You will see a survey that revolves around arts, physical ed, and health competencies. It's something that you just complete. This is not a do or die submission. This is more of an accreditation submission and data collection point for Wilmington University and the College of Education. Now, you will see here observation 2 written response, and for us, this is essentially your task 4 of the PPAT. And so what we typically recommend to you, the year-long residency candidate, is that you do not submit anything here until your task 4 is done, and you may submit that as evidence of your written response. Now, of course, I'm not expecting you to remember all of this stuff right now. Again, this is an overview for all of you so that you know where it is, where it lives and breathes, and you have the ability to review it in detail. So we've got a question. So no, Ashley. A part of our program for the residency is that you have no on-campus classes or courses. If you recall during our overview, the coursework that you're registering for is only for licensure and certification as a requirement and regulation for initial licensure. You do not come to Wilmington University for a course. So your supervisor who is assigned to you will help you submit your work to the mentor teacher, because your mentor teacher who is assigned is the person who will be evaluating everything. So for example, in observation number 1 here, as a collection of your evidence and your lesson, you will submit that to your assigned mentor teacher. He or she has access to TaskStream, and they will evaluate, review, and evaluate your lesson through the protocol that you are used to, that you understand. Did I make that clear as mud, or is everyone still following along with me? So, maybe I'll take a quick pause then and make sure that everyone is still on the same page. So, Lynette, you ask a great question. So I'm going to ask a question back to you. What document, Lynette, would you use and review to find out when things are due? What document would you use to go month to month to month to find out when your methods are due? And hopefully you'll say the gradual release of responsibility document that identifies to you what's your responsibility month to month to month. So, got a couple of questions here. So your methods courses, your observations, your evaluations that are all done in TaskStream are submitted to your mentor teacher. That is correct. You do not get a grade. You do not get a grade for anything. When the residency, you are showing satisfactory completion, and you are demonstrating your ability through those various competencies and the facilitation of these lessons via your mentor teacher. So as he or she goes into TaskStream and they score your work, that relates to, and if it's a better word, if I say it this way, it may help, passage and or completion of those particular competencies or standards. Does that make sense? So Kara, also, you're saying, when should these competencies be completed by? The gradual release of responsibility form will detail when you should be completing and finalizing the respective lessons, units, and so forth. So everything is in that document that you need. Again, I know that I went over it generally, but my expectation is that you will go into it in depth between now and July and so forth, so that you can review it and see where these things belong and when you are to do them. Let me go ahead then, and of course, ask questions away. Don't hesitate. Each methods course is listed in your TaskStream account as well. Again, very similar, obviously, to practicum. There are directions, and there are evaluation methods that are clearly listed. So it's your responsibility as the candidate to review, look at the directions, look at the rubric in which you will be evaluated on by your mentor teacher. Now, of course, what I think everyone tends to do is go back to grade A, B, C, and everyone tends to go back to GPA. In the eyes of the residency folks, this is demonstrating your ability, your proficiency, your skills through an approach that is not textbook or course based. Your mentor teacher will facilitate and guide and work with you to put together these thematic units from month to month to month, and they will go back and forth. It's not a here's a book and here's a content and now you go do it and then get it to me and I'm going to grade you. That's a course that you take. And that is why you are in a program that is so unique, because what you're engaging in now is with an individual who knows how to plan these units and will work with you in the process of planning it. Now, they're not going to do it for you, right? You're going to have the responsibility of putting them all together. And yes, they're going to evaluate you on your ability to do it, but there will be a lot of assistance, coaching, mentoring along the way. Now, to also calm everybody else's fears, and this is why it's important to go back to that gradual release of responsibilities form, you will not be responsible for all 4 methods at once. Your mentor teacher will work with you in identifying which unit they think is best to move forward on first, then second, third, and fourth. So, for example, most of your mentor teachers start with either math or science. Reason being, math is typically the most cut and dry in terms of approach and in terms of content. ELA is extremely difficult in most views, and so they hold it off a little bit. And by that, I mean they're pushing it off on the calendar. So instead of something that you have to worry about immediately, they're going to identify per the gradual release when they want to see you completing these methods and the units, and then, of course, uploading them into TaskStream for review and evaluation. Yes, Kara, great question. They will be for you so that you have that opportunity to engage and then record and then demonstrate that you have completed as such. So yes, Leslie, that is correct. In the year-long residency, you engage in the PPAT from January, February, March, and April. And of course, we as a team will go into depth as to how that's implemented. For our purposes to answer this particular question, when you complete the true task for PPAT in March, if I'm not mistaken, you will use that particular written response and upload it into Practicum 3 where it belongs, as a demonstration that you have completed that requirement. Good questions. These are great questions. Of course, your mentor teacher and your supervisor will go through this with you as well. You are not alone, I promise. But again, the high level view and ensuring that it's very detailed. The task 4 and the PPAT, yes, Morgan, it is. In terms of you completing your task 4 for PPAT as the examination. Yes, Lauren, everyone has their own supervisor. You and I specifically have to connect with Mrs. Carr, and she is away. And as I think you may have, I think I did send an email to you. As soon as she returns, we're all going to connect as a team. She will also be there during the July live face-to-face meeting as well. Okay, the last part is the student teaching. Oh, got a couple of questions here, so let me jump into these. Um, so, Lynette, your primary point of contact is your mentor teacher and the building level administrator. Then your second point of contact is your university supervisor. And then I do not need to be made aware of that particular issue. Your supervisor is your liaison to the university. No, Diana, we do not. We do not offer methods courses in those particular areas. Great questions. All right, in review of task stream for student teaching, and this would be in our eyes, the time frame of January to about May, okay, would be then a reminder here of praxis performance, that you will be taking the praxis performance assessment. Nothing is needed here to do, but it is a reminder that you do have to do this. By May and June, you will be submitting your particular reflection forms. There are mentoring and coaching forms that your university supervisor will be going over with you. Don't worry, in detail. That's what your supervisor is for. They'll go over it in detail with you. You will need to complete a particular survey, very much like Practicum has the post-disposition survey. There is a multicultural survey that we collect at the end of your experience. So typically sometime in February, March, we send out a little note and your supervisor will remind you to complete that. You will see that you will have 3 observations, formal in nature, during the latter part of your experience. A midterm evaluation typically is done in December by your mentor teacher, and it is completed here. You'll see that there is a final evaluation that your mentor teacher conducts and completes as well. You will see that there is an action plan for improvement here embedded also here in the student teaching area. Of course, as I mentioned in Practicum, an improvement plan is a necessary component in case there is the need for to address a challenge or an issue that needs to be resolved or provided additional support in. And so that's why you see a 4th observation and an improvement plan as well. Please know that an improvement plan can be implemented not solely for instructional reason, but could also be implemented for dispositions and or other reasons. Now, I'm going to say to all of you present this evening, I've never had any year-long residency candidates on an action plan or improvement plan based on dispositions or attitude or attire, not wearing the appropriate attire, stuff like that. That's usually not typically what happens during the residency. In terms of instructional side, sure, absolutely. I've had a resident or two that needed some additional observation evaluation in a formalized method to ensure that they met those benchmarks, those competencies that are required. The final component of task stream that's related to who you are as a student is your then feedback on the entire clinical experience for residency. It's essentially a survey that you complete and fill out. So this is, again, a high-level view, but it provides you an opportunity, again, to say, I've shown you where it's at. Now I need you to go in and review, make sure you're aware, you know where it's located. Your mentor teacher knows where this stuff is. They've done this before. Your supervisor knows where it's all at. They've done it before. And they will act as your guide and mentor and coach you through this. But it's your responsibility to jump in beforehand to ensure that you know where it's at and what's expected of you. Okay, trying to keep us within this time frame, this minimum time frame. As I look over, I see it's almost 9 o'clock. Let me end then by saying we all have our respective dates of July 8th, 9th, or 10th for our face-to-face meetings. July 8th is for Newcastle County, and that is at 1 o'clock. The location is being solidified by our coordinator. As soon as we know what room, I will share that with all, I promise, in a timely manner. The same goes for Kent County. In Kent County, we're on July 9th at 1 o'clock, face-to-face. And then July 10th is Sussex County, and that will be at the Partnership Center at the Georgetown site. Again, room is to be determined. Again, all of those rooms will be shared with you in a timely manner so you know where to go, of course. Now, when you are attending these meetings, your supervisors will be there. Your mentor teachers have been invited and are expected to be there. There will be a mentor teacher or two who cannot attend, and I am aware of that. But please know that the cohort team is there, meaning if your particular mentor teacher is absent because of they already have a family obligation, or and it is their summer vacation, they are obviously right relinquishing time for this. Uh, the other mentor teachers who are a part of the team and cohort will be there to guide and provide you right information and details. So, and you have to remember that this is not just you and your mentor teacher. You are not alone. It's yourself, right, and your team. And you're all a team, by the way. Newcastle County, you will gather all together. All the residents in Newcastle County during the year-long experience, you'll gather together, you'll meet together, you'll work together. Same as Kent and Sussex. You're never alone through this process, okay? And that goes for your mentor teachers. They're not alone either. They rely on the other mentor teachers and the other teams to work together. So please know it's that type of approach. Now, so Lynette, that's up to your supervisor. That's up to Mrs. Dr. Wyatt. So she'll let you know how that's going to be planned and how that works with Kent County. And every district and every facilitation is a little bit different because it depends on what your mentor teachers are working on as well. So answering your question, Lauren, you're right. July 9th, you're considered Kent in this particular respective meeting. What to bring? So you're going to want to bring a folder, maybe like not a 3-ring binder, not that yet, but I would certainly bring a folder to collect information because there will be some handouts and printouts to give you. I will be sharing with you tonight the contract, and I want you to review that because during your July meetings you will be signing the contract. So I want you to go over that in detail, and if you have any questions, I want you to ask me, of course. I think it is something that if you want to share with a significant other or parent, I mean, that's appropriate as well. You should do so. In addition to your folder, and you have your contract reviewed, because we will be, again, signing that, just bring like a blank notepad and marker, pencil, pen, whatever you like to write with. Please make sure you have some paper to write on. And if you are a tech person and you want to bring your laptop, that's great. We'll supply a laptop for everyone during these meetings as well. Okay, a couple of questions, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Should we sign the contract? No, not yet. Don't sign the contract. Just look at it. It's review purposes. You'll sign it on July 8th, 9th, or 10th because it has to be a live signature on the date in which we meet. Yes, I am available tomorrow in the morning, but I'm not really sure who's asking me if I am available tomorrow. If you could send me an email, I'm happy to respond back. Lynette, how many days must we serve? Well, there are 185 and a half school days in a teacher's contract, and that is essentially what we do. So we follow the teacher contracted days. So how many sick days do we get? That's a great question. It's always one that comes up. Thanks, Nicole. I see. Thank you. Yeah, send me an email, Nicole, and I'll shoot back to you a couple of times. Lynette, I think we always take this in the manner of most teachers receive a set number of days, sick days, and usually the number is about 10. Now, I typically don't like to say you're only going to get 10 or you've gone over 10 or anything of that nature. I like to go down this pathway. I like to say everybody is going to get sick. Children are going to get sick. You are going to have a doctor's appointment. However, if it becomes repetitive in nature, or if it begins to impede on your performance and movement forward, then we begin to discuss about worries and concerns. And I go back to that action plan for improvement. Now, I've never done this at the residency level. Have I done that at the traditional venue where someone has consistently been late or they've taken multiple days off and I had to address it in an action plan? Absolutely. Lynette, I totally get it. As a father, I get it with kids. Don't worry. Your children are going to get sick, and all of you are going to get sick. You're going to need to take time off. Not one of your mentor teachers is going to sit there and think any less of you in doing that. Here's what the problem would be. If you didn't let them know in a timely manner, so that means make sure you got their cell phone, right? And you're connecting with them. And make sure it's not too repetitive in nature. I think you understand, everyone, where I'm going with this, right? We get it. Things are going to happen and come up. All right, folks. All right. It's at 9 o'clock hour. Let me let you go. I appreciate your time. Again, I'll email out everyone tonight the recording. I'll email out everyone tonight the contract along with the recording link. A reminder, also the link to the primary year-long residency page in case by chance that was accidentally deleted. And of course, if you have additional questions, send me an email. Nicole, yes, I am free tomorrow morning to chat, so just send me an email as a reminder, and we'll connect. Okay, have a great night, everybody. I very much appreciate your time and your willingness to jump on. Sorry I went a little bit long. As my kids would say, I talk too much. So, okay, good night. Thank you. Have a great evening. Thank you.